Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. Brought to you by Blue Sky Business Consulting. We discuss 5 questions in about 15 minutes. Hello again, everyone. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We are excited to present a kind of a special bonus podcast episode for you this end of this season 4. And I'm very excited to welcome our guest today. This is Brent Pohlman. He is the CEO of Midwest Laboratories out of Omaha, Nebraska. And I have to have a fun little note here. Brent is also was my very first podcast guest that I ever had. When I started this podcast 3.5-4 years ago, whatever it was, he was my very first guest. And he's been very kind to come back a couple of more times. And so I'm very excited to have you on again, Brent. Thank you for taking time. I know you're a busy guy, but I really appreciate it. How are things in Omaha?
Oh, things here are great, John. It's great to be back, and I know we're going to get into it, but yeah, 3-4 years it has. We've kept in contact. It's crazy all through, before COVID and after COVID. We're still here. That's right.
That's right. We're surviving. It's great. Well, thank you again for taking time. Part of the reason why this is kind of a special podcast for all of those that can view, you'll see me holding up a book here. This is Brent's book, Leaders Look Within. He just released it here this fall, and it is outstanding. And I decided to take a little bit of liberty with this one and just talk about the book, because Brent brings out some outstanding comments and ideas and insights about leadership that I thought were worth talking about. And so for all of the leaders out there, this will be a little bit different format. It'll probably be a little bit longer than our standard format. We don't have standardized questions on this one. We're just going to have a fun discussion that comes from his book, but also some other ideas that will certainly come up as we're having kind of a relaxed, loose discussion. So again, Brent, thanks for being on. Let's start with kind of what might be an obvious question, but what was your motivation for writing the book? Was there something that you just felt like you needed to share a certain message, or what was the inspiration behind the book?
Yeah, I mean, who am I to write a book on leadership? Who's this guy who thinks he has some kind of ego or thinks he knows it all? That was first things, that that kind of went through my head is how dare I even take on such a topic like this? But I really do think, as I think over the last 4 or 5 years, I've just seen a huge transformation, not only in myself, but in our whole company and our team. And there's a lot to leadership. I think that's really where I kind of started with the book. And leadership is so personal. Who am I to tell you what leadership is all about? I mean, you've probably read those books, that say, here's the 10 steps to an effective leader, or you do these 3 or 4 things and you'll be a great leader. In my experience, you have to find it yourself. And yes, the book was really a perspective of how things that I found that I really had to dig deep and go into in order to find what does leadership mean and how can I be an effective leader. So that's really the premise of the book. And I thought that message really, I think, would resonate with a lot of people out there.
I appreciate the fact that you are kind of sensitive to, who am I and those kinds of things. But I also appreciate and respect the fact that you said, hey, I've got something to share. This has been my experience. May not work for you. It may not be quite exactly what you're looking for, but I can offer my little testimonial. This has got some really great ideas. Now, you and I are both men of faith, religiously speaking. I think they're different faiths, but we both bring that into some of our leadership style. And so I kind of wanted to get your perspective. When you consider your faith, how does that influence your leadership style, and how might it affect other leaders out there, and how much they should pull into that?
Yeah, well, I have to thank my wife for that whole piece on the faith part. When I wrote this book, I started with a ghostwriter, got all the way done, and they say, don't let anybody read it, not even your wife, till you're all the way done. And when I did, I had her read it, and she said, this isn't you. And so after 1 year of writing, I took all the words and thoughts, and it was organized. It was well organized. I needed somebody to help organize my thoughts, but I went back and spent a whole nother year and incorporated faith into the whole books. And that's really where the premise where she was saying says, what about your faith? Where's your faith in here? And so I think during COVID and all the unrestlessness, I wasn't sure if I was ready for a message like that. But then absolutely, when I dug deep into my heart, I said, yes, this is the only way to live. This is the only way that I'm going to be effective is if I really get in tune with my faith, and it shows through my leadership, and it shows in the way I get up, and my why, and all those things. So it was a really, again, another transformation that I needed to really make it a part of everything that I was doing.
I love that, because there's so much to all of us, and we're not one-dimensional people, any of us. And you and I were talking before we started the recording that, leadership, you can talk to 100 different people, 100 different leaders, and you're probably going to expose or discover 100 different leadership styles, because everybody really does need to discover their own leadership style. And I think for a lot of us, it is a self-discovery journey that we're always kind of on to try and learn a little bit more about ourselves. And I think for a lot of people in today's day and age, religion and their faith, we're kind of influenced to suppress that a little bit. And I appreciated your desire to share and bring that in and let it be a part of you, and let that show in your leadership, because I believe in that. I believe it's important for people to know, hey, I'm a person of faith, and this is important as far as my leadership style and what it is that I like to try and do. What encouragement would you offer to leaders who maybe struggle a little bit with how much their faith should be a part of their leadership style in a business setting or in a professional world? What encouragement would you offer? What ideas?
Well, I think it really, for me, again, it was part of that whole why process. Why do I get up every single day? What is my why and what is my how? And that's really where I came to, as I said, my why and how statement is I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart. And so being intentional, that's what it really led to. What am I going to be intentional about? And I think when it strikes you like that, you really come up with a purposeful mission statement, a why for your life. And every morning I just say that, who I am, and that's where I want to be every single day, and bring my A game and bring those principles to that every single day. So it's really a focus. It's really an intention. And I think every person has to, again, find that. What are those most important things to you that you're going to bring out that you believe are going to be purpose-driven, mission, vision-driven, and ultimately your why. Why do you get up? What's most important to you? Your family, your faith. What are those things that are really rock solid that you're going to build upon every single day?
I don't think it's not realistic for any of us to have core values, whether they're religiously based or whatever it is, and then ignore them during the workplace. It doesn't work, right?
No.
I think that there are those who are concerned about working for a leader who may have some strong religious ties. And I would emphasize that we don't necessarily need to be preaching our religion when we're in that mode, but I like how you said it, that we let those values that are influenced on each of us individually by our religion, we let that carry forward, and we're going to touch on this just a little bit later here towards the end of the discussion about positivity and some of those kinds of mindsets and attitudes and whatnot. But yeah, it really is. It can be a challenge for leaders who have those deep abiding faiths of any religion around the world, but then feel like they have to set them aside. And I'm one that would politely argue, you don't need to set them aside. You don't need to be in everyone's face religiously, but certainly let those inner core values play out in your leadership style. But any other comments here before I get to some of the points in your book?
I think you said that very eloquently, and it really is. Sometimes we make it more, I think, harder than it really is. And really, when we search inside of us, and sometimes that's hard. I know it was kind of hard for me too, but if you can really get at it, what's important, then you're going to find true meaning in yourself and in your life. And that's the key, I think. Instead of just living every day, maybe just going through the motions, there's more to this life. And each person, I think, really needs to find that for themselves.
I agree completely. Yeah. Find out what yours is, what's really your purpose, your why, all of those things. Love that. Well, just a couple of, just 3 or 4 questions from your book. It's not a terribly long book, by the way, for all of those who are interested. It's only about 123 pages is what my notes show. And it's a fairly easy read. It's not heavy duty. It's very relaxing, and it makes it very easy to read. I'm not one that can read heavy duty stuff for more than about 20 minutes at a time. But this is one that I can read for a little bit longer because it's more of a kind of a relaxed tone to it. But there was a part of the book that I felt, there were several parts, but one in particular that I wanted to start with. You emphasize the kind of the three steps, if you will, of people, processes, and technology. Talk a little bit about that, because to you, and I would agree with you, there's a sequence there that needs to be followed. Talk a little bit about how you came to that sequence of people, processes, and technology.
No, my chief strategy officer that I work with every single day, Dana Berkey, she's the one who introduced me to that concept. And the first day I heard it, I was just like, wow, yeah, this is so powerful. Because I had those out of order. I was looking for the latest technology to solve whether it's a system or, just whether it's your iPhone or whatever. I mean, apps, technology, the race to technology has gone on fast. But I really needed to get back to the people part first. And for me, if you get the people part first, it's amazing how much faster you can go with technology, with processes and technology. And then processes second. You got to be consistent every single day. And the only way, some of it is defining the process. I'm talking about work more, but just even in my own life, having a daily routine, having certain things in order it's amazing. When you have some things in order that you do on a consistent basis, it just makes for just a better way to live. But definitely people first. I think that was the key for me in that people, process, and technology. And she really showed me how that, how the people part will go really fast. People, get them in the right place, the right jobs, the right positions, treat people with respect, and then process. Hey, we got to know what we do, and we got to do it consistently. Do we need to document these things? Do we need to train better? How do people know? Do they even understand why they do what they do? And that was huge. And then, of course, technology, when you tack on technology at the end, if you got the first two in place, the technology comes so much easier because you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to go further, faster, and people will adopt it a lot sooner too. So that's my experience of those three. And it's been amazing, just that people, process, and technology concept that I wrote about in the book.
Oh, I think that's such marvelous insight, because that is what happens to a lot of leaders, and we all fall into the trap once in a while. We look to the technology to be the end all of solving every problem, but really it starts with people. And we can let the technology accelerate, I think was kind of the word that you used, become more efficient in how we do things, but it always does need to start with people. And I love that perspective. A lot of people, we share this, again, two different faiths, but Jesus Christ was considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, servant leader. He was always working with people. That was his primary focus. And it's Christmas time, and so it's it's going to be, for those who follow that faith, that's when we celebrate his birth. And for me, always trying to focus on the people that I am leading or serving, that to me has made a big difference in my leadership style, to always be focused on the people. And it is not easy to do that, because we get caught up in the process of fulfillment in a business world, of getting things done, being more efficient, but we can't step over the people. I think that was the phrase that you used a little bit earlier, was we can't step over the people to get to the process or the technology, or we've kind of lost the battle there. But I loved how you shared that. I think that was really insightful, and this was a great part of the book there. What else? Anything else you want to comment on that? Or
No, I think you'll get to it as we go to dig deeper in some of the other themes. But yeah, definitely the people, process, technology. I really wanted people to just think about that for a second, because it is powerful when you really think.
It is.
Tear that back. It is a powerful concept.
Oh, it very much is. And it's easy to forget. And so it's a good reminder. It was good for me to read it. I was like, yep, I got to be careful. People first. Always, always people first. Well, there's again, several parts of the book. This was another part you said, I prefer filling my mind with what's important and what I need, instead of trying to fill my mind with everything. and that filtering and that is so hard for any leader, especially when you own your own company or you're running an entire company. There's so much coming at you. What is one of the biggest keys to help leaders accomplish that, to be able to filter out, if you will, these are the things that I really need to be focused on. These are the things that I alone need to tackle, and I need to let somebody else take care of the rest. How do you do that?
Yeah, there's several examples in the book, but journaling I think has been extremely beneficial for me. I have to write my top 3 goals. I have a to-do list on top of that. I write down my intention for the day. I write down what I'm grateful for the day. And then the one that I've touched on a little bit in the book is, what was I uncomfortable about yesterday? And when I say that uncomfortable, I have to think back. Now I have to do so, I have to think back yesterday. Where was it that something just wasn't quite right? And then I write that down. And then by writing it down, it helps me. Is this a priority? Do I need to spend time on this particular issue? Is it something important? Is it something somebody else could be working on? Or do I not? Is it just, maybe I just need to leave it alone? But I think that whole process of writing down what I'm uncomfortable with has really helped me just be less reactive. Because there were times, if you asked me probably 4 or 5 years ago, I probably couldn't even tell you what I was uncomfortable with, because I was reacting to everything. And to your point, when you're listening and to all the noise, you can go totally reactive. And that's who I was. I was totally reactive to everything. Any little thing would make me, I would just say it, whatever was on my mind. So that's one key. And then I would say the other one that's really been life-changing for me is emails. I don't know about you, but even sending emails, even my top people, I'm only allowed to send 3 important emails a day. If I send more than 3, then I'm going to get a phone call. Like, what's going on? What's wrong? So I have to really take the time. What do I really want to communicate here? Again, getting away from being reactive is, what's really important today? What's really important? I know maybe this person's in meetings all day. Do I really need to bombard them with 10 more emails on top of that? Because we know what that feels like. You and I probably know what that feels like too. But just my rule of 3, and I just made that up. I mean, I just really just worked on that as an intention, and it's really helped. And I know if I send 4 or 5, I'm getting a call. I know that. So, and something might be wrong or something might be off. We'll deal with it, but I really stick to that 3 as much as I can.
I love that. I love the rule of 3. I love the idea of limiting yourself, because that kind of forces you to prioritize and to say what's absolutely critical, and to be as succinct yet comprehensive as you can in those emails. And so, it kind of gets you, kind of cuts to the most essential parts there. One of the challenges that leaders have is delegation, is trying to figure out, what do I need to work on, and I'm going to delegate. Have you discovered, I'm sure you have, but share with us a little bit of some things that you've discovered on how to effectively delegate, so that when you're handling the things that only you can handle, how do you effectively give the rest to someone else and trust them to just take over?
Well, I'm going to probably say something that'll make a lot of people uncomfortable, but if you're a true leader of a company in a top position, you've got to get out of the day-to-day. And that was probably my biggest learning. I was in the day-to-day all the time. I thought was the only one who could solve things. I thought I was the only one who could make the calls. And there are more important decisions from a visioning standpoint. Everyone in the company wants to know where the company is going. Well, if you're in the day-to-day, you have no time to say, hey, where's someone came up to you and asked you, where's the company going a week or a month? My reactive activity would have said, well, I don't know. I would have said something really off the cuff. But now it's like, no, I know where we're going. Yes, we have today, but this is where we're going to be in 2 months. This is where we're going in the next couple of years. After 2 years, even with COVID, it makes it a little bit harder. It's very challenging right now. But again, that's the work that a leader should be doing, is that visioning all the time. Where's the company going? Because that's where you're going to build that culture. That's where people are going to see that the leader has got a plan. We can trust that. And then yourself, you got to offload, absolutely trust. You have to have a team that you can trust. If you can't trust, then you got to figure that out. I had to figure that. It took a few years. I mean, I didn't have the right people first. but you got to have the right people in the right positions. And I didn't have that. I thought I could just bring in people from the outside, from their past experience, but some fit our culture and some didn't. And you really need to work. I need to work on that. The other thing I will see in meetings as a leader, if someone says something uncomfortable, we talked about that uncomfortable, I have to pause. I have to take a really deep breath. So people laugh at me in meetings. If they see me take a huge deep breath, they just start laughing at me because they know I'm getting really uncomfortable. But then it just slows me down, and I just say, okay, tell me where that is coming from. And what I've learned through that, I've learned so much about our people, first off, because someone may have said something that they didn't even mean. Maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe they're not feeling 100%, or they're just saying something. Again, maybe they heard something, wherever it's coming from. But whatever that example would be, like, hey, I think everyone should get a 20% pay increase. Okay. I'm going to just like, okay, tell me more about that. But understand the why behind those things. Before, I would have just said, I don't care. We're not doing any of that. And then you just shut it down. You shut down the communication. But when you as a leader are open to that and slow down, find out where it's coming from, who's saying it, is it really important? Again, write it down, then you can deal with it in a much more manageable state. So that's what I've really learned through that whole process. And it's helped in delegating ultimately, as the question was, you start to trust your people, and they can trust you. They know that you're not going to step in. If that's their responsibility, they're going to come to you and say, I'd like to work on this, or I think we should do this. Okay, that sounds good. Tell me more. Or, tell me more. I need to understand this a little bit better. But you don't have to make all the choices. You don't have to take all the actions, but you got to get out of the day to day. I think number one, that's the biggest thing.
That is such an important comment, to get out of the way and get out of the day to day. Because, and the phrase that we often hear is, leaders need to be working on the business, not in the business. And that is a big step, especially for the business owner, the founder, who are usually taking that first big, huge leap of letting go of their baby that they've created and turning it over to somebody else. And in this case, that was your dad. Your dad.
Yeah. I thought of my dad as you were saying that. Yes, exactly.
So yeah, that's an interesting handoff to the son there. But I really appreciated and respected, excuse me, the fact that you talk about slowing down when someone offers a comment or an idea or a suggestion. We may hate it. We may think it is the worst possible idea, and our instinct is to immediately reject it. And I really appreciated that you said, take a deep breath, slow down. I think it's comical that now they can read you and they kind of go, oh, okay, we just hit a nerve there. So you might have to give them a minute to process this. But that is really important, because that's part of how leaders can create safe spaces, psychologically speaking, for their people, is to just listen and not give an immediate response, but give it some thought, give it some time to kind of process a little bit. Okay. And I love that you said, I think if I heard it correctly, tell me more about that. Why do you feel that way? And you're trying to get to the source of that comment, maybe because it happens. Even leaders don't see everything. And I've had it happen where somebody offers a suggestion and I'm going, where in the world did that come from? And at first, no, we don't need to worry about that right now. But if you stop and you listen for a minute, you may go, oh, I didn't think of that. And now someone else is pointing out something, and then maybe another person in the meeting or whatever setting it is may corroborate a little bit and say, yeah, this is a little bit of a problem. We probably ought to take a look at it. Doesn't mean you have to take action on it right away, but exactly. Goodness, what would you have missed if somebody doesn't bring it to your attention? So I love that. Slowing down and listening. That is such a two key components to being able to really to delegate, to communicate it, but to delegate and to show that trust. But great comments. Love that. Something else that you mentioned in your book is, and I'm going to read the quote here. I have learned that you can absolutely feel the energy in a room. I used to hear people say this, but I was very skeptical. Today, by gauging the room, it has helped me lead with empathy and understand where people are coming from. That's the end of the quote there. But I'm a big fan of empathy when it comes to leadership. I believe that's one of the most critical qualities that a leader should have, is empathy. So let's talk a little bit more about empathy. That follows very nicely from what we were just talking about with the listening and so forth. What is something that you've learned, and you shared an experience in your book about how you didn't read the room quite as correctly or gauge the room, and it kind of caught people off guard. Um, how can leaders best gauge the room, and when do they need to worry about it? When do they not need to worry about it if there is a scenario? What are your thoughts?
Oh gosh, I think the biggest thing is when I walk into the room. I mean, literally now, I think because you become when you want to become the best leader that you can, you look deep inside yourself and you start to know what things trigger yourself. And I know certain things trigger me, or I know closed spaces, or even just weird stuff like that. Or you're around a person maybe that just drags the energy out of you. I used to fight that so much, but now I go into things and I think, hey, this is going to be a really tough topic. What's my approach going to be here? How am I going to bring this up? And again, I work with some people that really, again, a lot of different people, but I think I'm really sensitive to what the information that I'm being presented. What's the message I want to say? Um, we have monthly town halls with all of our employees in person and online,
Wow.
and we share about how the company is doing and at the end I can make some general comments, and I try to read the room the whole time. I can see where some people are a little bit maybe turned off, and I used to not be very good at this. I used to be terrible. I just say we're going to do this and this is it, and people could just read that, but they didn't believe it. But now, by just taking a step back and saying, and you can always start with, if you're unsure, just say, you know what, I'm going to find something grateful in that room, or whoever's in there. And the one thing that I've probably learned the most is call somebody by name in that room. If there's somebody in that room, just say, Mark, how are things going at home? Or how are you doing today? Or, Jane or Julie. If you stop and call their name, all of a sudden they stop. It's funny, you watch this, but people will stop when they hear their name, because sometimes we go our whole day and we don't even hear our name called
Your name,
in the
yeah.
workplace. But when you say somebody's name, you just stopped, and you're really in touch with, okay, how are you doing today? What's going on? And I usually don't even talk about work. How are things going? With your kids at school, or how are you feeling today? Or if I could, the feeling I gotta be careful about that. Sometimes you can step on toes, but I think by the starting with somebody's name, it just brings them in. And some don't like that, but at the same time, they just, oh, this person is trying to care about what I'm thinking about right now, or what I'm bringing into this conversation. So that's what I've really learned in that moment. And now, if you walk into a room and everything's kind of laughing, funny, obviously, you can like, okay, I wonder what's this energy going on here.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, then you can kind of ask them, okay, what's happening here? Or, you can just ask general questions. But I think just those little things, feel the energy in the room and understand where you're coming from. But room of silence, yeah, you gotta always have to really watch where things are, because you just never know. Um,
right.
and I think I really learned this was with COVID, when we were all wearing masks, and I didn't see people's faces, so I couldn't read. I could never read them, and I
Harder. Yeah.
didn't. It is, and I didn't know. We went from 110 employees to 300. I didn't know anyone's names. So this spring, I met with every single department, and I tried to learn as many names as I could before going into that meeting. And we just talked about, we just had 3 questions, and the third one was, tell me something, or tell the group something about you that no one in this room knows about you. That was the question. I could not believe the openness. I could not believe what people were saying. Some shared like way too much. Some, I learned that we could probably have a zoo with all the animals that we have with all of our employees. I learned so much. But again, taking the time to really understand and say people's names, so that even in the hallway, when you walk by somebody, if you just say their name just for a second, it just shows that you're, again, trying to be have a little empathy towards them, and just stop and say, I recognize you. You are a person. you're respected, I respect you. And that's really helped me, again, feel the energy in the room or in the hallway, just on the workplace site. It's really helped. I would just say that.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about people first and making sure that you're always putting people first. We talked about it, but the empathy and calling people by name, knowing their name. You get into a larger organization or team, and it gets a little bit harder to know everybody's names. But I appreciate and respect the fact that you have made a sincere effort, obviously, to know everybody's names and to be willing to say, how are you doing today? And I have worked with lots of different clients in leadership, and I have discovered that some leaders, how shall I put this delicately? This is not their strength, shall we say, to be a people leader. And with those individuals, I've just very gently said, if you're not that kind of leader, you need to designate someone else on your team to be that leader, because your people need it, whether it's coming from you or a COO or whatever the position is, titles, whatever that means. But the employees all need to feel that they are seen, that they are valued, which is what you were just talking about. And that's what that empathy, in my view, is all about. And I also, one other thing that you mentioned earlier, kind of your former self, if you will, didn't really gauge the room as much. You'd go in and you would just kind of say, okay, this is the decision. This is what we're going to do. We're going to move forward. You just kind of march on. But when you lead with empathy, you may adjust that. You may say, you know what, maybe now's not the time, or maybe I need to present this a little bit differently. And sometimes leaders, we get a little bit too locked into our ideas, even if they're right. Sometimes the timing isn't always right. And we have to kind of think a little bit, all right, well, I need to present this a little bit differently so I can get people on board, get them aligned with what I'm doing. Because if you come out too hard and strong, you'll alienate people. And it's a lot harder to get them back in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish if they don't feel that sense of empathy and all of those things. But great comments. I just love this. All right. Kind of the last item I wanted to discuss here. I mean, there's a ton, but let's go to the kind of the last thing. Because this is, in my view, a great way to kind of wrap up our discussion here. Again, a quote from your book: "When I arrive at work or at an event, it is clear to me that many people are hurting, and you as a leader can bring some much needed positivity and perspective." I love that quote. I loved what that picture that came to mind as I was thinking about arriving at an event, arriving at work, walking into someone's office, whatever situation you may be in, that you can be a source of encouragement, positivity, and so forth. What other ideas do you have on that, and how leaders can be that beam of light, if you will, to inspire people to be happy, and even when things are tough? How can we do that as leaders?
Yeah, it is really a choice. And when you make the choice that you want to bring the positivity, I used to watch the news all the time. I know now if I go in and watch the news, I know it's going to get, it's going to just suck the energy out of me, because I'm questioning whether it's even a true story. I'm questioning so many things. And it's so much work to watch the news. So certain things I've really just like, okay, I can watch the news for like 2 minutes and then that's it. I just want to hear the headlines or see, or even on the paper, I'll read the headlines like, I don't want to go down that path. I don't need to know anymore. I don't think that, we can make those adjustments, or we can decide how we want to use our energy. I think for me, the biggest thing was bringing my A game every single day. And what does that look like? And to me, I did not know my negativity at one point, or my just processing, or what, if I'm stone-faced or I'm just, my head's down, I'm sending a message to everybody that, ooh, what's going on with the boss? He's not in a good mood. So when I step out of the office, I go out there amongst all the other people, I literally just say, no negativity. I cannot have any negativity, no matter what's happening. I really have to show positive face. And once in a while, if I'm really thinking about something, I'll say, hey, sorry, you know what? I'm processing. I just came out of that meeting. I got to process this. I'm probably not even done processing, but I'm getting there. But yes, just so people know what's happening all the time. But I think it really is an attention, again, that you want to bring your A game. You want people, we want to be around people who are happy. We want to be around people that are excited. Who wants to be around somebody who is down in the dumps or constant negativity? Nobody likes that.
Right.
So yeah, so why would I want to choose to be that person or be that way? Is that what I really am driving for? So yes, positivity, it definitely is an intention. It's something that you gotta really want from your heart, that you go in every single day. This is the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I love that. There's a real challenge that we face, because when you're a leader and you need to be in that positive space, even when things are kind of crumbling down around you, you have to find those things that are draining your positive energy and threatening with negative energy. And you've got to find a way to eliminate it, or at least reduce it. And I appreciated that you were open and honest, and needing, and it's okay to tell someone on the team or in the organization, I'm processing right now. I need to, give me a little bit of time here. We're all kind of trying to figure this out. And that gives them, in my view, a permission, you might say, to say, hey, be patient with me too. I'm trying to be patient with you. Be patient with the leader too, because they are often processing things that we don't even know about. And once in a while, it doesn't hurt for the leader to say, give me a little bit of time to kind of work through this a little bit. And I'm not a big fan of the word vulnerable, but that's kind of the word that gets tossed around. I prefer the word open. Be open with people. If you're going through a rough time, it's okay to share that. But I really liked how you emphasize the importance of positivity and a positive perspective, a positive outlook. It is about an intentional mindset, and it's difficult. We've all kind of muscled our way through the pandemic, and we're still, I think there's still some reverberations going on. But whether it happens in a global scale like a pandemic, whether it is an industry specific, sometimes there's something that's happening in an industry. Sometimes there's a more of a disaster that's happening locally, a natural disaster that may only affect the folks in Omaha, or may only affect the folks here in Utah, where I'm at, whatever it is, but it still affects your community. And you have to be able to kind of lead with some measure of positivity, at the same time sensitivity to what's going on. But great comments. Anything else you'd like to add, Brent, as we kind of start to wrap this up a little bit?
No, I think back to the heart of it again, for leaders, if you want to be a leader, again, just dig deep inside yourself. And I had to work with somebody to do that. If you need help, go get help. I mean, there's plenty of people, good people out there. You got to find the one that works best for you again. But leadership is very personal. But once you find it, man, you can do so much, because you'll realize, to your point, that people are always going to be first. And if you can take care of people, that is that's most of the battle. I mean, seriously,
Right.
people know that they are supported, they feel safe, they're supportive, and they can go forward. You will be able to do so many things. That's what I've learned in this process.
No, completely agree. Well, here it is again, Leaders Look Within by Brent Pohlman. Brent, where can people pick up a copy?
Amazon, if they just search my name, there's not too many Brent Pohlmans out there on Amazon. You can find it there for the most part. Also, the Audible version is available too, so they can buy it. And that was something, even recording that, it took me 6 hours to record that. And but again, it's as you said, Sean, it's a very easy read. It's a very you could read it in one night pretty much.
Yeah.
It reads pretty fast. And that's where the other thing, I don't know about you, but I can't read a 200, 300 page book anymore. I don't know what it is about that. It's too much. I think we value time so much. So again, that's why the chapters are very short, but I think it's easier to remember. It's easier to just,
little bursts.
Very easy read. And I appreciate you saying that.
No, it's true, because I'm the same way. I mean, I can plow through a book in a month, and that's usually kind of my goal, is to try and get through some of these heavy duty books in a month. But this is one that I read less than a week, and and that was spending 15, 20 minutes a night, and I was able to get through it in a fairly short amount of time. But it's a great read. I loved it, and really appreciated the opportunity to talk with you a little bit more about it. So again, thanks to everyone for your ongoing support of the podcast. And Brent, thank you for taking time again to not only jump on and take your time, but to talk about your book. So it's been great to have you on again. I look forward to our next opportunity to chat. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up with that. Again, everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We wish you all the best in the year 2024, all the success, everything that you're shooting for. We are excited to be a part of that journey in some small way. And we look forward to joining you again for a new season in the Team Engagement Podcast. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks again, Sean. Thank you.
This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, go to teamengagementpodcast.com. We also invite you to follow or subscribe to our podcast wherever you may be listening or watching. Is your business thriving? Go to tbs-score.com to find out. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.